it's gonna be. I have tomatoes, kale, like some yellow watermelon or something. I put on its own because I feel like that would get huge. And then like sweet basil. I don't know, some
Nice.
shit I don't even know. Black cherry or something. I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Black cherry tomato,
Maybe that's what it is.
probably.
Probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
It's
just
a
said
type
black
of
cherry on it.
it's a
And then
type
it
of
said
heirloom
Roma.
tomato. It's like those little, yeah, that's the other type of tomato.
Yeah, Romas are the big ones though, right?
Romas are like they're
Red.
not huge. They're like red and like
They'll be
Oh,
oval
like
like the
they'll be
shaped.
oval
like
ones? Yeah, yeah,
they'll be
yeah.
like three to a vine or something.
Mm-hmm.
Is Dan coming or no?
Probably not.
Do you
Yeah.
want to talk about the like starting to practice versus going on your own or being an associate? I mean,
Yeah. No, I like that topic. I think that's
yeah,
something that we touch on because whenever we do the first day at the seminar, we take the last part of the day to sit down and just kind of have like a real talk with people. And we ask them like, hey, what's your plan? Like, are you going to be going to be an associate? Or are you going to open your own thing? Like, what does it look like to you? What questions do you might have for us? Because, we've all kind of been through those situations and we can give some feedback onto what that looks like. So I would say that so far that's been like one of the bigger topics that tends to come up at the seminar where I think we're given some pretty decent advice and it's just good to constantly go over when people are contemplating those things. So yeah.
do you think people should do or how you know what route to go?
Yeah, I mean, start with kind of our own experiences, especially yours versus mine versus Demir's versus Dan's. It would be nice to have Dan on here today just because of the route that he's about the next step that he's potentially going to take, but
Hmm.
either way, whatever we have us three. And so yeah, I think that that's probably one of the bigger topics that people they might go to school and they think that I have these, they have really high hopes to go work for a team and be a team doctor for some local, you know, professional sports team, which is insane to think. Um, and then you got the other person that has the job that's lined up with the doc in their first quarter, and their philosophy might change throughout that whole experience. They're going to realize that they don't want to go work for that person. So it kind of puts them in a really weird place. I know that for myself, I had a lot of high aspirations. Um, and then when I decided to go off to Sacramento to go work for the guy I worked for in Sac, I remember thinking like, oh yeah, this is the move. We talked about me taking over his practice and purchasing it. And here I am in Arizona, no longer having those aspirations. So yeah. How about we talk about your first 6 months into practice, Chris? Because I think yours was the fastest.
Yeah, so I was that guy who, I mean, you guys know, I'm like, I got a job lined up. This guy's awesome. I'm working for Hanson. Everything was about like going back and working for that dude. And, because he said that thing, right? Like, you could buy into my practice. I want to retire one day and I want you to take it over. I don't want to work that long. So you see that big, sexy practice and you think, man, this is the route I want to go. Like, I wanted to be the man. And I ended up doing my preceptor. I finished clinic a little early, so I had a 6 month instead of a 3 month preceptor. And I was working for him. And the whole time it was like I was working my ass off. I was adjusting people, but mostly doing like modalities and stuff. And then it kind of set me up for my pay scale. And it was kind of like a kick in the dick. I was getting $3,000 or 3,500 a month or 40%. Right. So I was like, all right, well, I don't want that. I just don't give me any base salary. Just give me 60% of what I make. And he wouldn't do it. And so the first month I was in practice with him, I stayed there 1 month. And the first month I made like 11 or $12,000. So then I brought in like all my own patients. I worked my ass off. I made like 11,000. And then I was like, all right, so I get 40% of this before taxes, like that's it. I just made you that much money and you're gonna give me that little. Like that's crazy. And then I was like, I can't live off this. Like, I get it. I'll probably be worse on my own to start, but knowing that this practice is taking in $100,000 a month because it was a big decompression practice, and I only get like 40% of my hard earned. That's crazy. And I realized in that first month, like, I was bringing in most of my own patients without referrals from him. So I thought, I think I could do this on my own. So I'll never forget, I had $1,000 in my checking account. I had just got paid from Hanson like a couple days before that. I had that $1,000 and I told Lindsay, hey, I'm going to start my own practice. And she's always been supportive. She's like, all right, whatever. And so I ended up going over to a gym and just sharing a room with a dude for a little bit. And then ended up talking to a guy at Double Edge, which is where I'm at now, about letting me rent the room, and I could have it all to myself. And so I went that route, and it worked out for me. I remember it was hard for like 6 months, right? Like just trying to make enough money. Some days you'd have 2 patients, some days you'd have 6, but that was like a busy day for me. And I remember freaking out about that. But when I look at someone deciding whether or not they want to go on their own or take that base salary, I just did the math. I was like, okay, so if I see 5 people a day, I'll make $5,000 a month roughly. And that's as much as I'm making there. So why wouldn't I do it? And the first year of practice, I think I made like 70 grand, and then it went up, and I'm in a gym. It's a 100 square foot room. I pay $600 a month for it. And every year since then, my income's gone up 30, 40,000 bucks. So it was like 70 and then 100 and then 120 and then 150 and then 180 and then 220. It's crazy to think that I almost was going to just take 3,500 a month forever. I don't know. I don't know. What do you think? Like, how do you know if you're that person that can go on their own? Because I know for me, we took so many seminars like the ones we're doing, like my adjusting felt adequate, right? Like, my patient scheduling, my communication with people, like, I was a pretty big pussy about telling people to come back. So that was where I lacked, but I knew I could adjust. And that was the only reason I thought, like, I could do this. I've been to other people and I provide something a little better than a lot of the people I've been to. So I'll be all right. But what do you guys think? Like, what makes you know if you're ready to go on your own and take that leap or not?
I remember when we were all talking about when you first decided to go off on your own, and we're all like, yeah, dude, like, you got to do it. Go do it. We're all hyper encouraging. And then I mean, like 3 to 6 months in, you're giving us all shit. Like, you guys
Yeah.
go off on your own and do this.
Pussies.
That's when I took the leap. It was like within that 3 to 6 months after it was like, no, it was like a year after you. Because I was just like, man, this guy's giving me shit every day.
Every day, every damn day. Yeah, dude, I think it's probably good for you to implement yours now. But
yeah, it was just like,
to answer your question, Chris, I think that there's a confidence that needs to come with being capable of saying that you're willing to do everything, literally everything that it takes to run a practice. And if you're not capable of doing that, it's probably going to be a really rough go when you get lazy with answering your phone, calling people back, emailing people when you say when you will, creating relationships and having the confidence in your abilities, like, and knowing that you don't have to worry about the work part. I think that's probably one of the bigger things when it comes to stepping off on your own.
Being out on your own is just, you just got to do so much more. And the less organized you are, the less motivated, it's just going to be tougher. And some people just don't mind punching in and punching out. And that's fine as long as, you're not getting screwed over. And a lot of people that are punching in and punching out at 9 and punching out at 5, probably getting screwed over. Like, Chris would have been if he's getting just 3,500 a month when he's bringing in tons more. And I had a similar experience, right out of school. And I just think like there's so much like pressure on students, not just even students, like there's so much pressure on just like young people by, their parents and by everybody else, like to figure shit out and to have a plan and know what you're going to do. And then you get in like chiropractic school and you're trying to like figure out what chiropractic is, and you're trying to learn and you're trying to get good at this. And people are already asking what your plan is going out. And you're like, I don't even know, man. I'm struggling with anatomy. Like, I don't even know, how am I supposed to know what I'm supposed to do? And, some people are just more, business minded. Some people just have like a better head on their shoulders than others. Others are just slower at that kind of stuff. I treated this like 18-year-old kid the other day. It's like talking to like an adult. It's like, this kid's got it figured out. And then there's other 18-year-olds where you're like, so I think like, there's like that like need for security that, everybody has, especially like, students. And then so, you settle or you latch on or you anchor yourself to like that first, opportunity, whether it's like a good one or whether it's, a shitty one, or it's just an opportunity. And it's something that, you can say, like, nobody else of your peers has a job lined up back home. You're the only one. So you're like, yeah, fuck yeah, this is my plan. This is what I'm going to go with. And then you go through school and you learn and you realize, like, man, like, this guy back home, it's like a shyster. Like, this doesn't align with anything that I want to do or how I want to help and treat people and all this kind of stuff. So it's tough to like balance that like need for security and then like to, deliver the kind of care that you want to do, being true and not like falling into bullshit in terms of like philosophies and like just crap out there, especially within the world of chiropractic, and like accumulating as many skills as you can. And then like just going out there and like putting yourself out there and doing the best job that you can and treating people how you kind of want to treat and how you would want to be treated is I think the most successful pathway to go in our profession. That's because I think like our profession is just so wide and so different that you really got to line up on so many different across the board on so many different ways in order to like work for somebody. So it just makes it very tough to get out there. And so this was, my story too, getting out of school, coming back from California to Chicago, not really having anything lined up, doing a preceptorship at a spot that was a pretty established practice, higher volume. And then Illinois slow as hell in bureaucracy. So then I had to do like a postceptorship, which is like 3 months after you graduate, working under their license, because it took 6 months to get my license after I graduated in Illinois. It was insane. So that's another thing to think about.
Yeah, it's another factor.
That's another factor to fucking think about. And then, it was in this practice that, you could see it. Like, I'm pretty bad at hiding on my face how I feel. And so the receptionists and the main office managers and stuff would like see it. They'd be like, and you just, because it didn't align with the way that, I felt like the best care is for the people in front of me. And so between every single day, not feeling like I'm doing what I want to do, no matter how much money, I was getting, and then getting shit every day from my friends about like going out and starting my own practice. That's when I was like, you know what, man, I'm just gonna go out there. Like my, friend was opening up a gym and he's like, I don't know if it's, we might be delayed for a few months. And they were delayed 4 months 3 months after the gym said they were going to open. And he's like, I might have a room. And I was like, done, I'm quitting. Like, so the first opportunity to go, I left. And so I think like sometimes you just got to like experience shit to know shit, and so that like you don't want to do this, you don't want to like this. And this is why like I always recommend visiting so many practices and so many offices as you can, so you can like find out like what you don't want to do. It's so important because if you don't have that experience, you're going to get out there and you're going to get that job and you're going to be like, oh, it's like, this is not what I got myself into debt for, but I wasted all this time and, energy doing and investing in myself. And so like, it's so important to like think about what you're doing and what you want to do with this, as opposed to like, oh, thank God I got into graduate school. I can like get all this monkey off my back, get all these fucking people off my back and say that I'm successful. Like, no one cares. No one cares about that unless you actually like go out and do something. And I think like you actually got to sit down and spend time thinking about what kind of practice you want to do, and then go out there and grab the bull by the horns.
Yeah, I would say that there's some things that are pretty. That's one thing we're alluding to with like becoming an associate for somebody, is that you do get to learn about those things you don't like, and what you can see for yourself when you haven't really figured that part out. It's like, hopefully you do figure that out and you realize how to go grasp the thing that you want. And a lot of times money is the thing that scares people. And I think all of us have been in that place where it was like you just said, you had $1,000 in your bank account, Demir. I'm sure you didn't have very much either. And then when I moved to Arizona, by the time we got to Phoenix, I had $8.35 in my bank account. And that was after working for someone for 3.5 years, trying to figure out how to go start my own. So, that leap of faith, if you like, one thing that I think that we've all said something true to ourselves is we're not afraid to fail, and we're not going to fail, because we're going to learn from mistakes and just get better from them. And so, the concept of working for someone isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I do think that for somebody that is in that mix of like coming straight out of school and you're like, I know I'm only going to go work for myself, I would say to that person to just find a low overhead and just hustle. I think that that's the person that just needs to go do it. And then have people that they can lean on to help them get through the growing pains of, you're really slow. How do I get more patients? Or, how do you bill for this? Or how do you bill for that? How did you come up with your patient intake forms? How do you make them look cleaner? How do you make that process faster and not as painful for the patient that's coming in? Whatever it might be. How long do you wait to text a patient back? Those little details are things you're going to, play in your own head. And it's good to have people there to support you, to, back you up on that. But for ones that just want to clock in and clock out, it's like, work yourself a good deal. Like, you have to pay your loans back eventually. If you grow older and if you want a family, you're going to have to support that family. You got to support yourself. If you want to save money and eventually buy a house, or, have money set aside in a 401k and a Roth and all these little things that you need money to do that. And, $3,000 a month is, I don't know a single place in this country where that's going to be okay.
No.
So
especially for a $200,000 loan.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's absolute madness.
I'll do like I'll say like what I think people should do, and then you guys add stuff. Is that cool?
Yeah.
So like, all right. So you're in chiropractic school right now. You go fucking hard on adjusting and clinical, right? Like you learn every single thing you can on how to diagnose people and when to refer out. And then you learn how to be really confident and good with your hands. Like adjust every single one of your buddies as often as you can, adjust your family members as often as you can. Just get competent. So when you come out, people feel that in your treatment, right? Mm-hmm. So do that first. Then when you're getting out of practice, because of what Demir said, like see how long it takes to get a license, right? So you got to figure out, all right, it's 6 months. All right, I got to work for someone for 6 months. So do that, and then make sure that like in your preceptor, it's someone that'll let you stay until you get your license, right? You just work, get your license with them, and then you go start your own. You go start your own in a gym or in a little building where you can rent a room for under $1,000 a month. try to stay under that $1,000 a month, and then you buy only the essentials in the beginning, right? Like you buy a computer, you get online scheduling so you don't have to text a million people, and then you start your practice from there, and then you do everything you can to get as many people in as you can and just give them a solid experience. You got that overhead nice and low, you won't panic every week. And then you're gonna build slow, but it's gonna build. Like time is the only thing preventing you from being really busy. You just have to put in the time and not get overwhelmed. Like you don't need that big building. You don't need the front staff. You don't need any of that shit in the beginning.
An
Especially
X-ray
with
unit.
online booking. Yeah, you don't need any of that shit. You can refer people for X-rays. You can refer people for anything you can't treat. Keep your overhead real low, and you just do a solid job, and you will grow over time. And we'll do another podcast on like how to get people into your office when you're first starting. But I think that's the route you take. Get really good in school, get a building when you can have a license or a little room, and you rent it out. You go really low overhead, and you just fucking grind. Work as hard as you can, get good on social media, all that stuff, and then work really hard to get busy with that low overhead, and you will survive. Like that first 2 years will probably be tough. You'll have some weeks or weeks where you make a couple grand and you'll be stoked, but you get past that 2 years, you will know if you have what it takes. They always say like 2 years is to know if you can do the job. 5 years, you'll know if you can do well. Right? If you fail in that first 2 years, you need to go work at the joint. But if you get to that 5 years of grinding, I promise you'll make money, you'll be comfortable, and you'll be fucking stoked that you didn't go work for someone for 3 years like Joe, but he moved, so it's a little unique. But like he worked for someone, got his practice and his reputation killer, and then fucking moved and started over again. Right? Like don't do that. That's scary. I mean, for Joe, it's great. It led to him meeting his wife and love of his life and having kid and another one on the way, and then starting his practice with like this confidence to have your prices higher. You know what I mean? Like that's a big deal too. So if that's you, where you have to do a year or two with someone and then go on your own to build that confidence, that's fine. But you don't have to do that. You can just go straight in and you'll be fine. Is that kind of like what you guys would recommend to someone? Is there
100%.
something else?
Absolutely. And for the record, he moved with me from California. Didn't meet her in Arizona. We met in Cali.
No, yeah, he meant
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah. Sticking around is
Yeah.
what
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, so it's like, I totally agree with what you just said, because I think that even though I felt the same thing that you just described, we all had seen it so many times, especially from other people, like Brandon Booth and Matt Smith. And I'm sure the list can go on with how many people had this model that just seems it works, and it also works when you are a stand-up person, you have a good reputation, and you do good work, and you're just not a freaking weirdo, at the
Yeah,
end.
it's so funny you mentioned the joint. I got an email like last week for a job interview. They're opening up a new new office in my zip code where I live, and I don't know how so they're hitting me up, and guaranteed 80 to 110 starting. It's like, damn.
Yeah, but you're gonna make 100 grand treating 55 people a day, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you'd be making fucking 300 if you did that on your own.
Mm-hmm. And working like
way
10
more
hours,
than that.
yeah, and Saturdays, yeah.
It's like,
but it's just so funny that you mentioned that.
Like being an employee like that is for some people. Like they just need to clock in and clock out and know that they have some benefits, and they can get taken care of. And it's like, I don't think it's a bad thing, but I do think if it doesn't align with what you're trying to do as, as a clinician, or what you envisioned for yourself when you were going through school, and now you're just compromising, I think that's a really slippery slope. You're going to be like, it's going to lead to depression. It's going to lead to all these it's self-doubts, and it's like, it's not fucking worth it. It's more worth it to suffer and struggle under your own pressure that you're creating for yourself, not by someone else, and, go, like, you're just going to do better because it's you creating the thing for yourself. It's your brand, and it's your tech, quote unquote, legacy that you're going to be leaving behind. So yeah,
Yeah, would you do anything
good shit.
different, Demir? From what I said, you think that's like, does you have any little nuggets in there for people to do, or how to
I
decide if
think
they're the one?
I think no, I would agree with what you said. I would have gone out right away. If I had to redo it over again.
Yeah,
me
too. I would do the
I
same thing
worked
if I had to
for
re-over.
I worked for a great, smart guy, who's a very successful practice. And him and I talked a lot, and like, we had good dinners, and we bounced back ideas back and forth, and like he was very encouraging about like growth and personal growth, and he paid for all your seminars and all that kind of stuff. You just had to like not quit within a year. And, I did like 20 grand worth of seminars in a year, and then I quit. And then so he was just like a smart guy, but like I didn't need it, any of that to go start my own practice. Did I definitely leave that practice a smarter person? For sure. And there's experience there, treating 47 people in 5 hours on a Saturday, is experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Deal.
You get good at like not being, rattled. There's definitely benefits to experience. But no, for sure. I if I had to go back, that's a year and like 2 months of my time that, I wasn't out there creating my own thing. So that I would for sure go back and change that.
Well, I think one thing that people don't think about is like when you're a student, you're coming out and you're getting ready to adjust people and you're getting ready to practice. You think you've most likely shadowed good docs, right? So you go around these practices and you're like, oh my God, they're better than me, right? They know more than me. I have to work for someone. But you got to realize, man, you know who you know more than? Every fucking patient that walks in your room, right? Like every patient that walks in your room, like coming out of school, if you're good with your hands, you know enough. It's just whether or not you're good with your hands. Like you know enough out of school. You'll know more than every patient that walks in your room. You'll be shocked at how much knowledge you've gained over those years. You're not as dumb as you think. You might be comparing yourself to a 15, 20-year chiro who's a wizard, but that's fine.
Right.
Like you'll be that one day too. But I promise you have enough skills right when you graduate to go on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's enough. It's not good. Like, I hope you're not the same in year 5 as you are in year 1. If you are, you're not trying. Right. But like, enough you know enough to be competent and to make people happy. And it's definitely worth going out on your own and taking that leap of faith. I think, it's one of the best things I've ever done in my entire life. So
yeah,
there's nothing.
I hate watching people go through that struggle.
No, and I think like, I just think like having the freedom, people are always like, oh, Demir, you're an entrepreneur. And I'm always like, I'm not quite yet. Like, I think, and that's just getting a little quickly into the semantics of like what an entrepreneur is. Like, I haven't built a business that I can just walk away from and like it's still sustained, right? I am the business. The business doesn't live without me. I'm not an entrepreneur. I just like a guy that started 3 jobs. I'm but the freedom I get of doing what I want when I want is worth it. Me doing those 3 jobs. And so that is what you're capable of doing with a degree in chiropractic and having a really good, awesome, successful life. It's just like, you just got to work. You got to work on your skill set, and you got to work on yourself outside of your specific skill set. And then you got to grind. But it's worthwhile, obviously. We're all like you know, always loving fucking life. So of course it's worthwhile. All right, I think that was it. That was good, boys.
I
It's
think
good. Yeah, I think next time we'll talk about we can go in just because based off this podcast, let's just go into like what you did to start yours and how to do it, and maybe we'll have 3 different ways to do it, and it'll maybe give some people ideas from like your systems you get to the table you buy to the way you got patients in. I think like we can all tell our story and give people some ideas on what to do when they get out.
Yeah, very valuable. I like it. It's a great idea.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Sweet.
Well,
All right, boys.
Dude, what
Get
we should
good.
do is
Get good. Sign up
we
for the
should
seminar.
have what we should do is we should have Dan like vlog what he's going through right now.
good idea.
That'd be good.
like that'd be like a really good like
Well,
value add.
we should wait until he's like moved in and set up,
Yeah.
and then like, all right, tell us your story, man, because you've gone through the ringer. It'd
Like
be
literally
interesting.
just now.
Yeah. That'd
Yeah,
be cool.
Dan will have a good one. Oh yeah, and last piece that we have to get through is that we keep bringing up you got to be good with your hands. So you should sign up for the seminar, July 22nd, 23rd, San Jose, Anchored Strength and Conditioning.
Yeah.
The early bird special by the time this comes out will be gone, and early bird 2.0 will come out. So instead of saving $100, you will now be able to save 50 with the new code, and that code will be available for people to use for about 4
Yeah, you
weeks.
should give people like 1 month where like message me why you didn't buy it early and give me a good story, and I'll give you $100 off. They're like, I was waiting for my student loan check. Like, all right. Yeah.
Well, how
All
about
right,
this? I'll
that's
make
not
them,
it.
Still
I'll
good.
make them
$50 off is good.
I'll make them message you if they want the $100 off.
Listen, you're paying $500 to like over the next 10 years make a fucking $1 million. It's worth it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's very worth it. Or you don't do it, you suck, and over the next 10 years you make 200 grand. Because those people exist. Those
Yeah.
people exist too. Yeah.
You know, there's more of them out there.
Yeah, for sure. All right, boys.
All right. Later.
All righty.
Good. See you.